The pressure flow theory, also known as the mass flow theory, explains the movement of prepared food to different parts of the plant body through phloem. This entire movement of food is directed from source to sink. Source is the supply area while sink is the utilization area. The translocating fluid in phloem, the sap, is composed of dry matter, 90% of which is sucrose. This sucrose is food to be translocated from area of supply to the area of utilization. The key components of pressure flow theory are source, sink, and phloem tissue. Source is the area where plant produces or stores carbohydrates, for example, the leaves. Whereas sink is the area where carbohydrates are used or stored, for example, the fruits, seeds and roots. Now, let us discuss the structure of phloem tissue, as it is the component of great significance in pressure flow theory. Phloem tissue is composed of sieve tube cells, companion cells, and parenchyma cells. Sieve tube cells contain sieve plates and are responsible for the transport of sugars and other organic compounds, whereas the companion cells are responsible for loading and unloading sugars into the cavity of sieve tube members. The flow of food from source to sink takes some routes. This mechanism is basically the loading of sucrose, osmotic pressure, sap flow, unloading and pressure gradient generation. First comes the loading of sucrose. In the source region, sugars, when produced through photosynthesis in leaf, are actively transported into the phloem cells, sieve tubes. This process requires energy and results in a high concentration of sugars in the phloem. The high concentration of sugars lowers the water potential in the phloem, causing water to enter the phloem from the surrounding xylem vessels through osmosis. This influx of water increases the pressure inside the phloem. The increased pressure in the phloem pushes the sugary sap along the sieve tubes toward areas of lower pressure, the sink regions, so the sucrose begins to travel from source towards sink. At the sink regions, sugars are actively transported out of the phloem, which increases the water potential in these areas. Consequently, water moves back into the xylem vessels, reducing the pressure in the phloem. So, to illustrate the pressure flow theory through diagram, we have learned that the food, sucrose, is actively transported into the phloem sieve tubes from the source cells. This process requires energy, ATP, and results in a high concentration of sugars in the phloem. Now, there's a high concentration of sugars in the phloem and it lowers the water potential. So the water moves from the xylem into the phloem through osmosis, increasing the pressure inside the phloem. Now the increased water pressure inside the phloem causes the flow of the sugary sap through the sieve tubes from the area of high pressure towards the area of lower pressure, the sink. Here, the sugars are actively transported out of the phloem at the sink regions. This reduces the concentration of sugars in the phloem, increasing the water potential and causing water to move back into the xylem. Thus, the pressure flow ensures the efficient distribution of photosynthesis and nutrients to various parts of the plant.